Okay, thank you for joining us. My name is Ryan Cole. I'm the head cross country and track coach here at the Air Force Academy. And I'm joined by Keira D'Amato, the American record holder in the women's marathon, and her husband, Tony, who ran cross country and track and field, commissioned in 2006 and was in the Air Force. So thank you again for joining us. And we just are going to ask you guys a series of questions here a little bit, and we'll get right into it. So Keira, after the American record, I have to think a lot of attention has been directed toward you, and you're getting a lot of interviews. So we're going to start with Tony. So
yes, that never happens.
Start off here. So Tony, at one point in your high school career, you came to a decision to attend the Air Force Academy. Why Air Force?
Right. So it was right after 9/11. So 2001 happened. And then the following year, it was started to work on that commission and started to work on that appointment to the academy. And I was able to get on a recruiting trip. And I had the Hall of Famer, Ben Payne, host me. And I was like, there's no way I can turn down this appointment to the Air Force Academy if Ben Payne is hosting me here. And that was a ton of fun. And when I left from that visit, I just thought that this was the place I needed to be. I didn't really know why, but it just felt like that the Air Force Academy would get the best out of me in terms of, my growth as a person, but also athletically. I thought that the program was phenomenal, and Coach Danforth was the coach at the time, and he had success across the years. And his approach to training and running was pretty simple, and I responded well to it. So I ended up signing the dotted line and making it through basic training and starting the life as a cadet. And got this shirt to prove it.
Yeah, you got a sweatshirt for it.
Yeah, that's right. We'll do it again.
So 4 years at the academy, ran cross country and track and field, then you commissioned. Talk a little bit about after the academy, what you did in your Air Force career.
Right. So I was a communications officer, and I did base communications in Wichita, Kansas at McConnell Air Force Base. I did that for about 3 years. And then I took an assignment to officer training school as a flight commander. So I was training newly commissioned officers on the chaplain, medical, and legal side of the Air Force into kind of like the customs and courtesies of the Air Force. And, surprisingly really liked that position. I went there kicking and screaming in all honesty, and really enjoyed that assignment. It was very rewarding. And then from that assignment, that was to Alabama at Maxwell Air Force Base. And then I took an assignment with the Expeditionary Warfare School, and that's in Quantico, Virginia. It's a joint school with the Marines. I wanted to brush up on my tactical warfare training and operations. A lot of funny stories from that with the Marines that I can't share on a recorded line. But from there, I was able to pivot to a joint tactical airborne unit in Tampa at the Joint Communications Support Element. And actually, side note, we ended up getting married in that assignment in Quantico at the warfare school.
We got married, backtrack, when you were in Alabama.
Well, that was with Elvis. And, that was to reap the benefits of, the dependents and BAH.
We were just too crazy.
You'll do anything when you're, a first lieutenant for a little extra pay.
I guess I'm not anything, huh?
Yeah. What about now? So you got to a point where your Air Force career was wrapping up and then moving into the private sector. So talk a little bit about your career now.
Right. So we found out our second Quinn was going to be born in August, and ended up having the opportunity to get out of active duty at 10 years in, pivoted and went to back home to Virginia, joined the Air National Guard as a cyber operations officer, and then started in the private sector with a small software company that later ended up kind of helping me learn more about software and technology, and ended up at Microsoft, where I am today as a director of delivery management, but also serving in the Air National Guard as the director of operations for a cyber operations squadron, and also at a Joint Force headquarters in Richmond. So pretty fun.
It's a mouthful too.
Yeah, sorry, it's a lot. But helping Keira run fast too. And that's the most fun thing I do.
So how did you guys meet?
Oh, you tell the story better than I do.
This is like a long run story. So
Yeah.
sometime we'll come out to Colorado, we'll gather the whole team and we'll tell the whole story in the long run, but I'll make it a long story.
Bike.
Yeah, we'll put him on the bike. Long story short, we met at a high school running camp. We went to prom that year, and it took us 10 years of being friends, best friends, really, to figure out, hey, we should get married. And then we did.
Yeah, and that was 2012.
Yeah, so we got married
10 years after high school graduation.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So when you guys got married and started a family, what was life like as a family in the Air Force?
It was pretty demanding. I was TDY pretty regularly, and for like our first son, it wasn't as much. But when we found out Quinn was being born, we felt like, I was at the point in my career where I knew I was going to be going to school, and then from school I would take command, and then every 2 years I would be kind of moving locations, and that really didn't sit well with us and our life goals. So went back to Virginia and thought I would take a breather and join the Air National Guard, but that ended up being way more time away than I initially planned. And I was gone probably 18 months in the first 3 years. So I was gone a lot to training school, to exercises, and then a mobilization that took me away from Virginia for a few months. So it was pretty demanding. And at that time, that was when Keira kind of got picked up into running, because she needed some sanity away from the kiddos and some
purely mental sanity. I needed a little. We had, there was a 0-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
And so I needed something for myself, and I had running in the past, so I knew how healthy and happy it could make me. So that void of him being gone and just being lonely, I filled with running. So we kind of like joke now that if he hadn't been gone so much, I may not be here.
Yeah.
Which is true.
And I think the military has been really good to us. Like it's supported us through this entire journey. And anytime family came up or anything like that, I know my commanders and the units I was with, they were real quick to help support the family and help me with my priorities. So they've been real helpful for us.
Absolutely.
And very supportive.
Because Keira, so you were a 4-time All-American in college, so very successful runner. And then when you got out of college, take us through a little bit of that journey where there was a pretty big break, right? Of not being an elite runner, and then kind of getting back into it. And obviously it's going really well now. So how did that break look, or how did you get to the point where you're at now?
Yeah, right out of college, I went and trained with the team. It was called DC Elite at the time. It's no longer around anymore, but I was coached by my now coach, Scott Rasco, and there was maybe about a dozen people on the team. And it was my life, and I worked really hard, and it was going well. I wasn't sponsored. I was having fun with it. And it was just really cool that I was somehow making a career out of running. But there was a lot of pressure with it because I was trying to get sponsored. I was trying to run fast, and a lot of my livelihood was all on running. So I felt just a lot of pressure. But I ended up having an injury, which I needed surgery, which wasn't covered by insurance. So it kind of forced me out of the sport. I really couldn't run again healthy until I had that insurance. But as a runner with, really still on my parents' insurance, it wasn't very good. It just didn't cover it. So I was kind of forced out, and that was like a weird transition for me because my whole life I was Keira the runner, and now I'm Keira the runner who doesn't run. So I had to figure out, well, what else does Keira do? And I fell back on my math and science degree and got a job in computer science and pursued that for a while. I eventually got the surgery, and then I just put running back in my life for fun. A girlfriend would be like, hey, I'm going to go do like a 5K. You want to join? Yeah, I'm in. Hey, we're going to go do spin class. I'm like, I'm in. Hey, we're doing CrossFit. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I had no goals other than just like being fit. And it was really, that was a really, I think, an important time for me to get to where I am now, because I feel like I failed in my first round, and I learned how to like move past that. So I learned that failing's not that bad, you move on, you figure out how to be happy, you figure out just how to move forward and kind of forgive yourself. And so coming back into running now, like I failed once big time and I left the sport, and that wasn't that bad. It's okay.
And you came back.
And I came back,
Yeah.
bigger and better.
Years later, way more out of shape.
But then I've also failed, and I've lived with the what if, and the woulda, coulda, shouldas. And like, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And I sat with that for nearly a decade. So coming back now, it's like, I'm not afraid to fail because it's not that bad, but I'm also don't want to fail again because I sat with what ifs for almost a decade. And I really want to see what if.
And now the what if has got you to a point where you're running well. This past January in Houston, setting the American record in 2:19:12. So kind of getting that, has that perspective of the break helped get you to that point where you feel like you're a better runner now because of the perspective you've had and the experiences that you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with running towards the end of my first round, like I said, I felt so much pressure. It just didn't feel fun. It felt really serious and it felt hard. And I put running back into my life in a way, the same way that I had it for, 8 to 10 years being a recreational runner, for fun, for health reasons, for mental health reasons. And I just leaned into what excited me, not necessarily what I should be doing and chasing these seasons or chasing these races. I was doing what excited me and what made me happy. And I don't know. And I didn't feel the pressure anymore. And I think just leaning into what excites me, then I was excited to get up. I was excited to train harder. I was excited to see what else there was. And I think that really, gave me just a beautiful perspective to be able to handle the pressure of standing on the starting line thinking I may set the American record today. So that's I wouldn't recommend my route for everyone. I kind of took the scenic route, but I do think it took the scenic route for me to get here.
You don't have to take 10 years, maybe 2 to 3.
Yeah, you can go soul searching for less than 10 years. Yeah, you don't have to follow my path.
Well, and so there are 2 questions from that then. So the first one you mentioned, standing on the starting line thinking, okay, I could set the American record. What was the lead into that like? Did you know when you were on the starting line, it may not happen, but it's highly likely that it could? And then was there a point in the race where you realized I'm ahead of schedule? If I just stay the course here, this is going to happen. And then did that make it harder to stay the course, or how did that lead in and that race play out?
Yeah, I think my training going into the race was going well. And I think when I committed to the race, I had done a half marathon and I ran a big PR. And I thought maybe I should do a marathon. And I think if I get one more training block, or I kind of go by month training blocks, if I can get one more solid marathon specific block, I can just rock a marathon. And that block went awesome. I was crushing my tempo runs. I was recovering. I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't do crazy mileage. I didn't do crazy runs, but just I was consistent and I was just kept to the course. And so standing on the starting line, I knew I was capable of running that time. And even maybe a week or 2 before, I told Anthony, I'm in shape to run the American record, but also thinking about that I could run the American record is putting me into a tailspin. So Anthony's like, okay, just don't think about it that way. Think about it. You're going to run 5:18 for 26.2 miles. Can you do that? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. He's like, okay, that's all you need to focus on, just the time. So I tried to remove the goal aspect from it. And I was just focused on my task. And for me, I could control that. And that was within reach. But I remember so vividly standing on the starting line that day and thinking I'm fit to set, to run 5:18s. If it happens today, awesome. And it could very well not happen today because a marathon's a long race, 26.2 miles, a lot can happen between point A and point B. And if it doesn't, I'm in the exact same spot as I am today. And I'm happy, this is cool where I am. So it just I was able to kind of frame that goal in a way that made it very achievable and not overwhelming for me. But even during the race, we were right on pace. I think we went through at around 30K or just over halfway. I think I was 1 second in front of the record, but it was also super windy. It was a really, really windy day. Mm-hmm. So I knew if I closed hard as I could, then maybe I could get it. But it wasn't until I saw the finish line and I was maybe 50 meters away where I could read the clock that I knew I was going to get it that day. Because a marathon, you could be feeling great. And then you crash hard, man. Then different you're stopping and walking and stretching your calves and eating all the gummy bears you can off an aid station.
That's how I run marathons, by the way.
So I didn't know if it was going to happen. I didn't know if anything was going to click. But I think one thing that I had never done before in any race, and I kind of finally figured out for this race, is I always before wanted perfect. I needed the perfect weather. I needed to feel perfect. I needed, my strides to feel smooth and perfect. And I put so much pressure on perfect. And in this race, I'm like, I don't need perfect to run this. I need good enough. So I woke up and it was like 30 degrees and wind gusts of up to 20 miles an hour. And I'm like, this is good enough. That's, it could
It's
be
not
worse.
snowing.
It's not
It's good
snowing. There's
enough.
no tornado. It's good enough.
We're not at
And
7,000 feet.
yeah. And I just like during the
Yeah.
race, I wasn't feeling great, but I was like, this is good enough. So I kind of took the pressure off everything having to be perfect, because I never have everything perfect. Like in my workouts, it's rainy or it's this, or my shoe comes untied. So I'm dealt with so much not perfect that I finally figured out I don't need perfect. I just need good enough.
So a lot of this is perspective, and you've built that perspective over the course of a career, over the course of a life.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell a young, talented, determined, very motivated distance runner, one of those people that hasn't had running not be a part of their life? They do feel that pressure because they want to be really successful. What are some things that you would convey to them to help build that perspective without having to take a decade away from running, or having a family and just having things not go perfect and still realizing you can be successful? How do you convey that to a younger runner that may not quite have that perspective or those experiences?
I think the most important thing, especially like, I felt like after the marathon, my way was validated, which was a really powerful thing. I don't train in a group. I don't train at altitude. I don't do any crazy things. Like, I'm a mom. I'm a full-time realtor. I have a lot of commitments. And actually, I feel like I can relate a lot, even though I've heard stories of what it's like to be in the Air Force, but I know how your time is it's so dictated, and there's so many requirements. And, like especially Air Force cadets deal with things that no other college students have. And for me, going into the Houston Marathon, I always looked at that as a disadvantage, that I'm so busy because of this, or I'm tired going into workouts on this. And after Houston, I reframed that it was exactly those things that made me succeed. I'm great at time management. I'm not a wimp. When things are hard, I just move through it. I practice when I'm tired. My kids can wake me up 5 times in the middle of the night and I'll still get up and I'll be able to nail a workout. So it's like all of these things that I thought were disadvantages, I've reframed it. This is why I kick butt, because I can handle it. And I feel like, the Air Force cadets can really relate to that. I mean, I've never been there, but I've heard lots of stories about that.
Maybe we should do a week, like welcome to the jungle.
Okay.
Here in the house.
Okay. Yeah.
Fun,
I can. We'll table that. We'll talk about that later.
But I think it does make you gritty, and like it makes you think that you don't need everything perfect, right? That like you're strong enough through all the disadvantages that you've overcome to be successful in any environment, right? Not need the perfect setup and the perfect environment to achieve success or to do well and outperform expectations.
Yeah. And if you just frame it as those things, like I've been to your campus, you have the most beautiful facilities and running trails and everything. It's like, you know what, if you have to get up early to like drums or horns or whatever to be able to, it's like, that's you guys are making out okay. So I don't know. I feel like I can really relate in a kind of weird way to so that would be the first thing, is just frame it, and your advantages, disadvantages, figure out like how to reframe that and make it advantages. Like, why is that making you better? And I think that that's really powerful. And then the second thing, which I've kind of hit on this, that I think is the biggest thing that I've changed in my first round of running, I was working so hard to be successful, thinking that that would make me happy. And then if I did this and I worked hard and I reached that goal, then I could be happy. And in this round, I've completely flipped it. And I'm happy, and I'm leaning into things that excite me. And I'm, running with a girlfriend or listening to a podcast, or I'm finding running to make me really happy. And because I'm so happy doing it, I've been able to like find the success. So I think, everyone needs to figure out like how running can make them happy and what things excite them, what distances, what mileage, whatever, and like really lean into that. Because I think when you're being true and authentic to what really excites you, you find everything you need within. And so I think that's just really, I wish I would have done that more in my first round now. So that would be the two. Sorry to ramble. And
It's good
No,
ramble.
do you find now, I mean, as the American record holder, does that make it more challenging to continue to focus on what makes you happy in it and continue to be driven by that? Or does there, it's, everywhere you go now or going to a start line, right? You've earned that target on your back. And so even watching the Boston Marathon on Monday, it's like, I mean, is it nervous because those women are out there running really fast and you're the standard? They're trying to, and Boston's not a notoriously fast course, right? But you're still watching that, knowing that, okay, they're striving for the standard that I've set. Does that make it harder to retain that happiness and as you approach it?
I feel zero pressure. I think no one thought I was going to make it this far. No one thought I was going to set that record. I think everyone thinks I'm probably one and done kind of show. So I feel zero pressure. I feel like this is like the icing on the cake. And as far as now watching the Boston Marathon, I feel so proud. I feel like I've been part of leveling up American distance running women. And that makes me so proud. And I can't even tell you, like, after the marathon, this thought just kept on coming back that little girls or women or people older or younger are watching that and thinking, I can do what she did. Like, I can do that. And how this can hopefully springboard the American distance running program to new heights for us to compete and just crush and win the Boston Marathon again and win the New York Marathon or win the Olympics. So for me, it's really exciting to be a part of it. And yeah, I don't really feel any pressure, but I also I ran 2:19 and it was a good enough day, but I'm like, oh, what could I do on a good day? So the fire's still there. Like, I still feel so competitive with myself. And it's not even so much with the other women, but it's like, I think I can run a lot faster than that. And I think if I get back to it and stay consistent, I don't need to do anything crazy. I don't need to do higher mileage. What I'm doing is working, but over time and just keeping at it, I think I'm going to be even better. And that really excites me because I haven't found my ceiling yet. And that's cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Tony, Keira has a good perspective on it. Do you get nervous, before her races?
Yeah, I used to, but at this point, I kind of feel like my job is to not be nervous and just be like the jokester at these races and keep the mood kind of light. So that's what I end up doing. And it's fits into my personality. I feel like I can be my true authentic self, the jokester. And, I try and just make light of the mood. And there's there's things on race day that won't go well. And I feel like now it's my responsibility to, just be like, just make something like a light joke out of it and not dwell or stress on it. But then also set Keira up for success. And that's being prepared, right? Making sure that she has her water bottles and everything she needs. She's read the, pre-race instructions. And she does a great job with that anyways. But yeah, I just feel like I'm there for the fun. And, and now people are coming up to me and they're wanting to celebrate Keira's marathon time and stuff like that. So I feel like I can, celebrate with it. And, people are like, man, if it wasn't for you. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's right, man. Yeah.
It's a good point though. Cause being the comedic relief, it just keeps me loose and it keeps it fun. And it reminds me, this is making me happy. It always makes me laugh because right the night before any marathon race, they have a big dinner and all the pros are really nervous, kind of sticking to themselves. And Anthony's going around jaw jabbing with everyone and just clearing off the dessert table. No one else is touching the dessert table. And he's going back for seconds.
Nobody touches it.
And I'm just watching him. Everyone's looking at man, that man can eat a lot of cookies.
On marathon eve, there's a lot of nervous people. So I just love going up to them, just talking to him, it's probably a really awkward moment if you're at a third party watching it all happen, but
it's fun. It's fun. He's
fun,
kept it really fun, which is important.
Anthony, I heard a rumor that last spring, we had two women do really well at the outdoor national championships.
I remember that. Yeah.
And so Mihaela Norris winning the steeplechase national championship, and then her teammate Maria Mettler getting third. I heard, that you guys were wearing some Air Force stuff, and Anthony, that the jerseys. Maybe you've been in the weight room, but the jersey was a little tighter. Is that accurate?
I don't know, Ryan. Why don't we see for ourselves?
Yes.
Is this tight?
I think it fits great.
He's
So
looking
do I.
good, yeah. I mean, are
It's a
they
little
supposed
sweaty since I've been in this.
are they supposed to be
This.
crop tops, or is that the
I
style?
think
of
that's the
crop
new
tops?
style. I think it's more aerodynamic and it helps people do better.
Got a
Yeah.
little faded in the laundry over the years.
That's from use. That means you're still, you're
That's
still putting
right.
it to good use.
I just
For those barriers.
we have been so
How long have
pumped
you had this plan? Like, I didn't know this was going to be a part of the interview.
I know.
up.
Well,
He kind of wears it a lot.
I wore it all day. I knew this was happening. 24 hours out, I packed the shirt. Always
That's
prepared.
awesome. That
We
is absolutely
have
awesome.
loved following the Air Force track and field and cross country teams, and just for a while, like when I was coming up, was it Hannah
Everson.
Everson.
right?
Yeah, I was seeing her at a lot of the races, and I'd always chase her
JC
down and be
Smith,
like, "Hey, I love Air Force. My husband went there. I'm a huge fan. This is great." And like watching how hard your team crushed it last year. Like, I mean, I'm sure the guys did great too, but the females were just like crushing it.
Awesome.
And the guys are awesome too. He always gives me updates that I've been, tracking the females.
And that 3K too. I think it was Ryan and Luke. They like did the slingshot move on that final turn and smoked the guy from Boise State. Yeah,
that was really cool. But yeah,
That
we
was
love
awesome.
watching, and we know how much your athletes, how much they're balancing on their plate, and we're just so proud to be Air Force fans. So.
Yep.
Well, Keira, you have a lot of fans in Colorado Springs. So
cool.
We really appreciate you guys taking the time to do the interview, and we're definitely going to be cheering for you down the road. So if you ever get back to the Air Force Academy, please feel free to stop by, and we really appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah. And I will say, like, we're big fans of Air Force, but ever get in a race and there's like someone from the Air Force, I will outkick them. I think you guys are cool, but I would be going all like full out Keira D'Amato marathon to try to outkick your girls too. So we can put
they're going to do their best to make it hard on you. So we'll try to
they
make
will
it hard
outkick me. I dare. I've seen their speed, and they will all outkick me. But just let them know I will be trying to run them into the ground. But
you're not going
to. Hey, I think knowing that you have the American record holder,
they will beat me, but it's not going to be easy. Yeah.
Hey, you'll make them run faster, because having the American record holder breathing down your back, if that doesn't motivate them, I think they'll be trying pretty hard. So we really appreciate everything, and congratulations on your success. And thank you for taking the time to share your perspective with us tonight.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks for having us.
Cheers.